You wake up. The sun spills through your window, another morning identical to the last. You reach for your phone before your eyes fully open. Notifications flood in, a world demanding your attention before you even remember who you are. Somewhere in the distance, cars move in perfect sync, carrying people to the same places, doing the same things, thinking the same thoughts. The routine is comforting, predictable, and yet something feels wrong. A quiet voice in the back of your mind whispers, "Is this all there is?" You shake it off. This is how life works, right? Wake up, work, consume, sleep, repeat. You convince yourself that progress is being made, a degree earned, a promotion secured, a house bought. But then years pass and a haunting realization creeps in. You're running, but you're not moving. And you're not alone. Society tells you that if you just work harder, if you just buy the right things, if you just meet the right expectations, then you'll be happy. And yet, the finish line keeps moving. Every goal you reach is replaced by another. Every desire fulfilled gives birth to a new craving. You chase success only to find it hollow. You chase pleasure only to feel emptier. But here's the real paradox. The system isn't broken. It was designed this way. Think about it. You were conditioned from birth to play this game. Every rule, every expectation, set long before you had the chance to question them. As a child, you were taught to obey, to sit still, to follow schedules. In school, you memorized answers, not questions. You learned compliance, not critical thinking. You were prepared not for freedom, but for function. And so, you grew up, entered the world, and unknowingly stepped onto a conveyor belt disguised as free will. But what if I told you that most people will live their entire lives without ever realizing this? That they will work themselves to exhaustion, drown in distractions, and measure their worth by numbers, grades, salaries, likes, followers, without ever stopping to ask, who decided this is what life should be? Who benefits from your endless striving? Who profits from your discontent? Why does happiness always seem just out of reach? Perhaps the scariest thought isn't that society is trapping you, but that you have been willingly participating in the illusion. Because escaping it means more than just waking up. It means dismantling everything you were taught to believe. It means realizing that the comfort of the familiar is the very thing keeping you enslaved. But before you can break free, you must first understand the depth of the trap itself. And that is where we begin. You weren't born into freedom. You were born into a blueprint, a carefully crafted system designed to shape your thoughts, desires, and even your perception of reality. But this system is so deeply embedded in your mind that you rarely notice it. Society doesn't need chains to control you. It only needs your unconscious obedience. Carl Jung called this the collective unconscious, a vast, inherited system of beliefs, instincts, and cultural conditioning that dictates human behavior without our awareness. You think you're making choices, but most of them are pre-programmed, shaped by forces beyond your control. How does this happen? It starts from the moment you enter the world. Before you even know who you are, society tells you. You're given a name, a nationality, a religion. You're told what is right and wrong, what is success and failure. You don't choose these beliefs, you absorb them like air. By the time you reach adulthood, your identity isn't truly yours. It's a patchwork of external expectations, a script handed to you without your consent, the invisible hand that shapes your desires. Think about what you want in life. A good job, a nice house, financial security, respect from others. But did you ever stop to ask why you want these things? Nietzsche warned of the dangers of herd morality, the tendency of society to impose values on individuals, forcing them into conformity. He argued that most people live in a state of borrowed desires, pursuing goals that aren't truly their own, but ones they were conditioned to chase. Consider this. If you were born in a different time, in a different culture, would your ambitions be the same? Would your idea of happiness remain unchanged? Or is it possible that your deepest desires were planted in you, not by choice but by design? Arthur Schopenhauer believed that human life is driven by an insatiable will, a relentless force that compels us to seek pleasure, status, and validation. But here's the cruel irony: the will is never satisfied. The moment you achieve what you once desired, new cravings take its place. You get the job and now you want the promotion. You get the house and now you want a bigger one. You get a taste of admiration and now you fear losing it. Society thrives on this endless hunger. Corporations sell you solutions to problems they created. Social media amplifies your insecurities and then offers you validation in the form of likes and followers. The education system trains you to chase achievements, not wisdom. The economy ensures you stay in a cycle of working, spending, and consuming. It's a machine that feeds on your dissatisfaction, and as long as you keep chasing, it keeps running. The prison of the mind. French philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre argued that most people exist in a state of self-deception, convincing themselves that they are free while blindly following the expectations of society. He called this bad faith, the act of denying one's true self in order to fit into a predefined role. Ask yourself, how many of your daily actions are based on genuine choice and how many are just habits? How much of your personality is authentically you, and how much is an adaptation to social approval? If money, status, and external validation didn't exist, what would you truly live for? The hardest truth to accept is this: the prison isn't outside of you. It's inside your mind. The fear that keeps you trapped. There is a reason people don't question this system. Fear. To step outside the cycle, to question everything you've been taught, is terrifying. If you reject the system, what's left? Who are you without your job title, your social status, your possessions? The great existentialist thinkers believe that true freedom comes with a cost, the loss of certainty. When you begin to see the illusion for what it is, you face a kind of psychological vertigo, a dizzying realization that the life you've built might be based on false premises. This is why most people stay asleep, because waking up is too painful. But here's the truth: the only way out is through. Before you can break free, you must confront the cost of staying trapped. And the consequences are far greater than you think. Imagine waking up one day and realizing that everything you've worked for, the career, the possessions, the validation from others, feels hollow. You've spent years following the script, achieving milestones, doing what you were supposed to do. Yet, deep inside, an unsettling emptiness lingers. This is not an accident. It is the design. Society doesn't just trap you in a cycle. It conditions you to believe that the cycle is life itself. You are taught to equate busyness with purpose, achievement with self-worth, and external validation with happiness. But what happens when the illusion fades? What happens when you realize that no matter how much you achieve, the void remains? The silent epidemic of meaninglessness. In the 20th century, Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and renowned psychiatrist, observed a disturbing trend in modern society. He called it the existential vacuum, a state of deep psychological emptiness caused by the loss of true meaning. In his book Man's Search for Meaning, Frankl described how people, devoid of a deeper purpose, turn to distractions, pleasure, power, materialism, addiction, not because these things bring fulfillment, but because they temporarily mask the emptiness. This is why so many people live for the weekend, chase relationships to escape loneliness, or immerse themselves in social media for validation. The system doesn't want you to find meaning, it wants you to stay distracted. Aldous Huxley predicted this decades ago in Brave New World. He warned that the greatest threat to human freedom wouldn't be external oppression, but a society that numbs people into submission, a world where entertainment, consumerism, and shallow pleasures keep the masses pacified. And that world is here. The psychological warfare of modern society. The most powerful form of control is the one you don't recognize as control. Today's world is designed to exploit your psychology, to keep you anxious, uncertain, and endlessly seeking solutions that never truly satisfy. Consider how. The education system trains obedience, not critical thinking. You learn to memorize, regurgitate, and follow instructions, but never to question the foundations of the system itself. The corporate world keeps you exhausted. The 9-to-5 structure leaves you drained, ensuring that by the time you return home, you have no energy left to question or resist. The media keeps you distracted. Scandals, celebrity gossip, and outrage culture flood your mind with noise, leaving no room for deep thought. Technology hijacks your brain. Social media platforms, designed with the same principles as slot machines, keep you addicted to validation cycles, ensuring you never disconnect long enough to reflect. This isn't a conspiracy. It's behavioral science weaponized against you. The death of the authentic self. Carl Jung believed that every person has a true self, an unfiltered, raw, and authentic version of who they are. But to exist in society, we develop a persona, a carefully crafted mask that allows us to fit in. Over time, the persona becomes a prison. You start living for external expectations rather than your internal truth. You suppress your deepest thoughts, desires, and instincts to avoid rejection. And the longer you wear the mask, the harder it becomes to take it off. This is why so many people experience a midlife crisis. It's not about age, it's about realization. One day they wake up and see that they've been living someone else's life. The tragedy? Most people never wake up. The cycle that never ends. Think about the average person's life. They are conditioned as children, taught what to believe, how to behave, and what to fear. They spend their youth chasing success, believing that happiness lies in achievement. They reach their 30s or 40s and begin to feel disillusioned, but suppress the feeling with distractions. They continue chasing until old age, where they finally slow down, only to realize that they spent a lifetime climbing the wrong mountain. And then they tell the next generation to do the same. This is how the cycle perpetuates. It doesn't need force. It only needs compliance. But here's the question. What happens if you break the cycle? What if you refuse to play the game? What if you decide right now to reclaim your mind? That is where the rebellion begins. Imagine for a moment that you step outside the script. You stop chasing. You stop conforming. You stop seeking validation from a system designed to keep you trapped. What happens next? At first, it feels like free falling. Your identity, built upon years of conditioning, begins to crack. The things you once pursued, status, approval, achievement, no longer hold the same weight. The illusion has shattered, but in its place there is uncertainty. This is why so few people break free. It is not comfort they fear losing, it is identity. But here's the secret. The moment you question the system, you've already begun to escape it. The first step, radical awareness. The system's greatest trick is making you believe that this is just the way things are. That working a job you hate, living for the weekend, and seeking validation through consumerism is simply life. It is not. It is a construct, and constructs can be dismantled. Carl Jung spoke of the individuation process, the path of integrating the unconscious self, breaking free from societal expectations, and forging an identity that is truly your own. But this journey requires brutal honesty. You must ask yourself, how much of my life is truly mine, and how much is inherited conditioning? Do I seek validation more than I seek truth? What parts of me have I suppressed to fit into a system that does not serve me? These are dangerous questions, because once you see the cage, you can no longer pretend it doesn't exist. The second step, killing the false self. You were not born afraid. You were not born passive, obedient, or addicted to external validation. These are learned behaviors, and what is learned can be unlearned. Arthur Schopenhauer described how most people live under the tyranny of the will, forever chasing desires implanted in them by forces they do not understand. This is why so many remain trapped. They are enslaved by their own wants, never questioning where those wants originate. Breaking free means dismantling these false desires. It means recognizing you don't need to impress people you don't respect. You don't need to follow a path simply because it is normal. You don't need to keep consuming distractions to fill the void, because the void was never real. The moment you stop living for external approval, you become unpredictable. And unpredictability is power. The third step, building an inner fortress. Nietzsche warned that breaking free from societal illusions is not enough. Once you escape, you must build something stronger in its place. Otherwise, you will either fall back into the trap or be crushed by the weight of your own freedom. So what does a liberated mind look like? It is self-sufficient. It does not crave attention, trends, or external validation. It is disciplined. It does not seek pleasure as a means of escape but as a conscious choice. It is ruthless in truth-seeking. It does not accept easy answers or comfortable lies. This is why most people do not rebel. True freedom is terrifying because it demands responsibility. There is no system to blame, no rules to follow, no external force to dictate your path. And that is where most people falter. They say they want freedom until they taste it. The fourth step, defying the system. Aldous Huxley warned that in a world built on distraction, simply paying attention is an act of rebellion. If you want to escape the loop, stop feeding it. Stop seeking validation online. It is engineered to keep you insecure. Stop consuming mindlessly. Every product, trend, and entertainment piece is designed to shape your desires. Stop wasting energy on outrage. The system thrives on keeping you emotionally reactive. Instead, reclaim your mind. Read books that challenge you. Not self-help platitudes, but works that force deep questioning. Nietzsche, Dostoevsky, Camus. Create rather than consume. Build something, a skill, a craft, a body of knowledge. When you create, you step outside the consumer loop. Master solitude. If you cannot sit alone with your thoughts, the system has already won. The moment you stop playing their game, you become something they cannot control. A sovereign mind. The cost of freedom. But here's the truth. Freedom is not comfortable. The system offers you comfort in exchange for compliance. It gives you distractions to numb the pain of a wasted life. To walk away from that is to embrace discomfort, uncertainty, and solitude. Most people will not understand your choice. They will call you cynical, rebellious, or unrealistic. Because deep down they know the truth. They see the cage too. But to acknowledge it would require action. And action is terrifying. So they will cling to the illusion. But you won't. Because once you see the truth, you can never unsee it. And that is the beginning of real power. What if everything you've been told about freedom is a lie? Not just the obvious lies, the ones that tell you success equals money, status, or approval, but the deeper, more insidious deception. That freedom is something you achieve. That one day, after enough rebellion, self-improvement, or enlightenment, you will finally be free. But that is the final illusion. Because true freedom is not something you win, it is something you embody. The illusion of escape. Most people who realize the system is a trap fall into an even bigger one. The trap of escape itself. They run. From cities, from jobs, from responsibilities. They believe that if they can just change their environment, cut ties, or isolate themselves, they will be free. But here's the truth. You don't escape the system by running from it. You escape it by realizing that it was never real to begin with. Freedom is not about changing the world outside of you. It is about realizing that the world never had control over you in the first place. Carl Jung spoke of the shadow, the hidden part of ourselves that we refuse to face. And this applies not just to individuals, but to society itself. The system isn't just an external force. It exists inside you. The desire for validation, the fear of rejection, the addiction to comfort. These are not chains placed upon you. You carry them willingly. And that is the ultimate deception. The final realization, there is no system, only you. Nietzsche once said, "He who fights monsters must take care lest he become a monster himself." Many who wake up to society's illusions become consumed by them. They rage against the system, constantly pointing at its flaws, endlessly criticizing its mechanisms. But in doing so, they remain trapped. They define themselves against the system rather than beyond it. The truly free do not resist the game. They stop playing altogether. What does that look like? It means no longer seeking an external enemy, because the enemy was never society, politics, or media. The enemy was your own mind, conditioned to believe in its own captivity. It means releasing attachment to validation, identity, even the need to be seen as different or free. It means stepping beyond rebellion, not rejecting the system out of anger, but transcending it out of wisdom. Because here is the paradox. The moment you no longer need to escape, you are already free. The fear of true freedom. Most people, if given true freedom, would not know what to do with it. They say they want to break free. But in reality, they crave structure, guidance, and purpose imposed from the outside. To be completely free means to take full responsibility for your own existence. No one tells you what to believe. No one tells you what to do. No one gives you meaning. That burden and that power falls entirely on you. This is why Sartre called freedom a curse. Because when there is no system left to blame, no structure to rebel against, you must face the most terrifying question of all. Who am I without my chains? The path forward, creating your own meaning. If you accept this truth, a new kind of life opens up. One where you no longer live reactively, chasing, escaping, resisting, but instead you create. You choose your own values. No longer inherited from culture, family, or social norms. You define success on your terms. Not as wealth or status, but as something deeper, perhaps mastery, impact, or pure experience. You embrace solitude, not as loneliness, but as a form of self-ownership. And most importantly, you stop asking for permission to exist. You do not need approval. You do not need external validation. You do not need the system to collapse before you can live. Because you were never truly trapped to begin with. You just hadn't realized it yet. The final question, will you accept the truth? Most people won't. They will hear these words, feel a momentary spark of realization, and then return to their loops. What? Because freedom demands too much. It is easier to be told what to do. It is easier to seek comfort in illusion. It is easier to believe that the system is too powerful to escape. Because if the system is the problem, then at least the blame is external. But if the truth is that you were always free, then the responsibility falls entirely on you. And that is terrifying. So, the final question is not whether society will continue to trap you. The question is, will you choose to remain trapped? Or will you finally step outside the illusion, once and for all?